Louisiana State Penitentiary, it's also known as Angola, had a general policy where every individual who was sentenced to death, who was on death row, was automatically placed in solitary confinement, and they had no way to challenge that placement.
And that violates the Constitution in a couple different ways. It's a violation of the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. It also violates the due process clause of the Constitution in that everyone on death row who's put into solitary confinement is done so without any process. It's just because they're there on death row.
Prolonged solitary confinement can have a range of effects on individuals, mental deterioration, insomnia, etc. I mean, imagine not having human contact for almost 24 hours a day, right? One of the things I remember being told by one of our clients was that the only time that he really felt like he had human contact was when, chains were placed on his wrists. So that can really damage an individual.
We went down to Angola with our experts.
We did a 30B6 inspection of the facility, which is a type of inspection you do for a class action litigation. So we sat down and spoke one-on-one with everybody on death row to get their experiences. We got a tour of the death row facility to see what the daily routine was like for everybody there.
I believe that was the first time I had met with a client who I was advocating for. I hadn't had that experience before. And so that it felt very powerful in that moment to be able just to listen, to ask questions, and then to take that back with me and think about now I need to frame kind of a legal argument around what they've been told. It's really easy to say, oh, this is wrong, and so therefore it must be illegal. But that isn't always the case. You really have to kind of do the research and craft the argument about why it's illegal and anticipate, what might defenses be and how can we present a really, really strong case.
We were representing these people, and so knowing sort of what they'd been through, the harms that they were suffering, and that they were going to continue suffering those harms until we finally, got relief for them, was a daily motivation.
These are really meaningful experiences for the students. The students who worked on this case got to understand the sort of workings of a big piece of litigation like this, where we're seeking to make change through the courts.
I would highly recommend a clinic experience, but specifically the Civil Rights Clinic, to any student at Cardozo.
It was an absolute pleasure to work with Professor Ginsberg, who is just legendary in the civil rights world in New York City. Also connecting with the other clinic students. I found that my cohort of the Civil Rights Clinic students was like a family. We were always in this room working together late nights, figuring out our cases and chatting with each other, and it was a great way to become a better lawyer and make connections and learn lessons that I will definitely take with me for my whole legal career.
I think the ability to actually work on a case that's not hypothetical, you don't get that in any other way, and the impact of what you're doing is real.